Hi, welcome to YWR. We're here with Jeremy Gray, who we all know, and a new addition, Tiger Kim, who's joining us from South Korea. Jeremy's here, so you think we would be talking about gold and the bull market in gold, but actually, as you may notice, he has a different hat today, and it says Pure Tungsten on it. Tiger Kim's got one too, so that's the hint. We're actually here to talk about another hot metal. Maybe it's the new gold, which is tungsten. So guys, welcome Jeremy, welcome Tiger Kim. Nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you for inviting us.
So Jeremy, I kind of know a little bit of the backstory of why. I mean, people know of you and your gold projects and extensive work you've done developing gold mines. So they might say, wow, what's this? How is he involved in tungsten? And how is that fortuitous, as tungsten is a hot metal? And I remember that, I don't know what the year it was, a couple of years ago, I think you were in Brazil working on one of your Brazilian mines, and something came up where someone you kind of knew or knew through someone else had been in a tungsten mine for a long time and wanted to sell it at a highly discounted price. And I think you were like, you being you couldn't resist a mine at 10 cents on the dollar. And I think you weren't entirely sure what the huge plan for this would be at the time, but it seemed like an amazing opportunity with the mill, and like where, not a greenfield project, which is your typical kind of what you're looking for, things that, there's that saying in real estate, the third owner of a golf course is the one that makes money. So after someone's put tons of money into the thing, you come in and buy all the established thing at cents on the dollar. So I know that's how you came into owning a tungsten mine. But I then, somewhere along the way, you ended up in South Korea and met Mr. Tungsten of South Korea, Tiger Kim. And maybe you guys can connect the dots for me and tell me how it all came together.
Yeah, sure, Eric. And thank you very much for having Tiger and I on today. As you know, we've done calls with you on Pilar Gold, Liva Gold, Tucano Gold, and Gold Road. And honestly, tungsten's taken a back seat. We just have been so busy, but with all 4 gold mines going into production now in really good state, we felt we could replicate this business in the tungsten industry, but we never had a decent, promotable, big asset, big, long life kind of story until Tiger came into our lives 6 weeks ago. And then we realized, wow, we have something super special, something probably bigger than our Monty, which is the hot story out there in the industry. And we, Tiger and I, spent a week together in South Korea the other day and confirmed in my mind he's got a world-class operation that restarts in the next 6 months. And not only that, he's got probably the best, highest grading tungsten mine in Tajikistan. And you've got to go where the grade is, the size and the long life. So, yeah, it just sort of came together, didn't it, Tiger? And super excited. The response for this raise has been incredible. At the end of the day, there's thousands of gold stories to play, but there's really only 3 tungsten investments in the world: our Monty, EQR Resources, and ourselves as producers. And even Stan Druckenmiller bought a 14% stake in an early stage exploration story that was announced yesterday in America. So the sector's it's basically where gold was a year ago, but 40 years of massive underinvestment and very few world-class assets and mines that Tiger has managed to put together. That's why we're super excited. He's coming on as CEO, and he's going to lead this to a $2 billion company. So I just should hand you over to Tiger.
I think that was it. I mean, we're done. No, Tiger, welcome. How did you end up to be the expert on like the tungsten, which we're all finding out now we all need in our lives is the most important metal? But you knew this 20 years ago.
Well, I think I wasn't that very knowledgeable and to see the profit for the future. I used to be a banker before I joined the mining industry. I was at investment bank like Morgan Stanley for years, And instantly, I was lucky to get involved in some resource transactions and M&A transactions, Korea Zinc, Korea Aluminum, all this. So that brought me into this mining sector. And it was 2010 when I first became acquainted with a Korean tungsten mine called Sangdong Mine, which is currently owned by Almonty. And talking about briefly about Korea and tungsten relationship, I don't think many foreign people know how critical tungsten was or used to be to Korean economy. You know, as you understand, we had a serious war between South and North back in 1950s, and after 3 years of the war, everything got sort of razed down and devastated. It was all ashes and debris. Now, then tungsten came into the picture, surprisingly. Right after the Korean War, Korean government and US government got into this tungsten alliance agreement. That made Korea started exporting tungsten to the world. And instantly, tungsten is the only critical minerals that Korea has now. And back then, of course, Korea, the tungsten was very competitive because the average grade of tungsten mine in Korea used to be close to 1%. Now it's average 0.4% or 0.5%, but that is twice higher than global average, including China. Now, so in 1950s and 60s, tungsten as a single mining item alone, they contributed to almost 60-70% of countries' entire export. So some people back then called Korea as an economy built on tungsten. So that much tungsten had a very special meaning to the Korean and Korean economic development. Now, it was, as I said, 2010, I was suddenly introduced to this tungsten mine, Sangdong, and by the Australian the owners who purchased the Sangdong mining right at very relatively cheap price. And they asked me to sort of help them finding the development money or development fund. And since I'm from that industry, I was trying to help them out. I brought in Korea Zinc, and Korea Zinc made some investment. And later on, I brought in this Warren Buffett's company called IMC, International International Metalworking Companies. So they have all contributed to the development and preparation of Sangdong to be a producing mine. So I spent at Sangdong for almost 10 years, and I left Sangdong 2020. And after my departure, I looked around because I had not with this historical attachment of Korea to tungsten, but I saw the future of tungsten. Because even back then, as Jeremy pointed out, tungsten price was tightly controlled and I would say manipulated by Chinese for certain reasons. And China, as a dominant player or exporter of tungsten, taking 90%. Now it's over 80%, but back then it was over 90% of tungsten export or production was controlled by China. And they have manipulated the price, but I could see the future of the tungsten, while the demand in the critical sectors like semiconductor, nowadays EVs, the batteries, and defense industries, the use of tungsten or application is growing rapidly. And now tungsten has become the material which determines the efficiency or the function of the product, the semiconductor. So, but at the same time, since China started opening their market, the first thing they did was exporting minerals, and one of them was tungsten. And incidentally, tungsten was buried in China, and back then, Chinese tungsten average grade was like 0.4%, 0.5%, and as tungsten did to Korea, tungsten was very instrumental in earning hard currencies for China in the early stage, like late 70s and early 80s. So
Kind of the same as
that's
Korea.
Yeah, same as Korea. Now, the side effect of that is obviously the price of tungsten, global tungsten, has collapsed from the 700 constant price, 700 down to $40 per MTU. MTU is 10 kilogram used in tungsten industry. So, which made the Korean tungsten mines not competitive because their average production cost was around 90, 100, and they could not produce at 90 and sell at 40. So for that reason, Korean tungsten mines, despite they had remaining reserve and deposits in their mine underground, they had to quit. Now, ironically, after decades, it's been almost 50 years or 45 years. Now, the tungsten is going to make to become one of the competitive edge of Korea because
Eric, just maybe
this.
chip in here because there are only two tungsten mines in Korea, and we have one of them. One, ours is Sanjong, and now Monty's is Sandong. And what amazed me is, and what Tiger was alluding to, the industry basically shut overnight in the early 70s because China was dumping tungsten all over the world and collapsed the price. And when we went underground the other day, there literally was blasted material from the last shift of 1973. You could see the workers' hats, and just right next to the mine where they were, they basically left that day, and it's been a time capsule for 52 years, and now
They're
we're
sitting there mining away, and then at the end of the shift, the boss said, "Oh, by the way, guys, that was your last day."
exactly, and I could not believe just how much potential has now been left, because if that mine had kept going for the last 52
How
years,
suddenly it all shut, right?
yeah, they all shut. There was only two mines in Korea. As my wife said, what, one's called Sandong and one called Sanjong. She just started laughing, and then people get. I think even you got confused by
I
the.
did, yes.
So that's the amazing thing about Korea is this mine that we have is basically only 5 years old. It closed in 1973, and we're here to reopen it now in a much stronger market, aren't we, Tiger?
Yeah. Well, as I
And I'm just
said
going
on
to say,
the
sorry,
part,
I'm gonna interrupt and go to Jeremy back to that. You guys did put together a very good video where you go around the whole thing, and it is I mean, it is a mine that was obviously fully functional underground, and then it, like you said, it just stopped. There's galleries, and here's where they were mining, here's where they were doing this, and you can walk around, drive a truck around in there. It's a big thing. I mean, I'm just saying, it was a fully developed functioning mine that just stopped one day. And now here you are, I don't know, what if it's 50 years later, and like, whoa, wait a second, this is economical again. I'm sorry, Tiger, I interrupt you.
Sorry, Tiger, go ahead.
No, it's okay. What I'm trying to say is that lastly about the market demand supply and the tungsten itself, as we all understand, that China has been dominating, producing over 80%, even until today. But important thing to notice is that China has become a net importer of tungsten concentrate, which has been for years. Now, that's the reason why I personally believe that tungsten price is only beginning its rising streak, right? I mean, which means on the opposite side, the Western tungsten consumers, like big corporations or companies, and even the semiconductor companies, let's say Samsung and SK in Korea, which takes almost 50% of the global chip markets. I mean, they need tungsten, right? But the problem is China has been putting their export control on these critical the minerals, particularly the areas where they feel sensitive, like defense. And I believe it's going to be expanded to the strategic areas like semiconductor as well in the futures. So developing the tungsten in a country which doesn't carry any geopolitical risk is very important. And at the same time, for Western tungsten consumers, a big corporation, it has become not just an option. They got to have and secure stable supply from non-China or non-conflict regions. And Korea obviously is one of them, right? So that's the reason why we believe the Sangdong has been successful in developing, and they are about to produce. But as a second largest mine in Korea, we will also do the commercial production in 6 months' time. And we have done. Let's talk about our mine briefly. This Sangjeon mine compares to Sangdong, which is Almonty's mine, which has been there since 1916. So
Tiger, are they
over,
nearby? Are they quite close to each other? Geographically?
actually, distance-wise, it's I would say that it's 40 miles away.
Okay.
But they are on the same metallurgical belt, the tungsten belt. The Sangdong mine has been a producing mine for 70 years. While our mine, Sangjeon, was relatively young, this mine was found in 1960s. And they started as a small open pit mine for years. And it was only 1968 when they got into underground, developing underground tunnels and doing underground stoping and mining. And it was 1968, and it's been only less than 10 years when they were hit by this huge flood of Chinese tungsten coming out to the market, and price plunged. And as you have seen in our video, there are the tons of blasted tungsten ore sitting there, not even taken out, because they suddenly become not competitive and not economical back then. So what I'm trying to say is that compared to Sangdong, our mine is relatively young mine, which means we have not done proper exploration. And we have this 1.5 times 1.5 kilometer mining concession area. Only a fraction of that has been mined out and has been properly explored. And recently, we have found on the other side of this mining concession zone, we found very good tungsten deposit there, very high grade, which led us to believe that once we do proper exploration, this mine could be a very big tungsten deposit mine.
I think Tiger's been super modest there, Eric. I think our mine's going to be much bigger than Almonty. And that's what the market doesn't appreciate. Almonty's got a market cap of 1.4 billion, and our current valuation is 40 million, both Canadian dollars. And that's the opportunity for us is, wow, what potential. When we have our own mill, we have everything. In fact, Tiger has everything almost delivered on site. There's a couple of items left to be delivered from China, aren't there, Tiger? But we're ready. Mm-hmm. We're ready to go like next month. We're ready to go, aren't we? We're just and even yesterday you finally got not finally, you've been working on this for about 6 months, but tell them about the electricity. You just had it connected yesterday on the grid.
Yep, I will. Well, Jeremy, I appreciate, yes, I tend to take conservative view, but only when I see all this exploration result in front of me, I will say that. But up until now, we have, relatively smaller mine than the others. Now, talking about what we have been doing is, as Jeremy said, we have developed all this, the galleries or drift underground, and now which has reached to the high-grade mining zone. In other words, we can start mining, we can start blasting from tomorrow and taking high-grade ore out. But what we intend to do is we want to produce a first cut tungsten concentrate at the mine underground. The reason why we chose underground space is it's much less environmental footprints and gives a lot of benefits, and also gives us some subsidy makes us get some subsidy from the government side doing this environment friendly method. Anyway, the idea is to produce 15 to 20% grade concentrate underground at Sangjeon and bring this 15 to 20% grade to our Hooper plant, which we have also acquired from government institution. And they are now fully operational. So I would say we are more or less ready to go. The only thing left is we need to complete the underground processing plant area, which is only 1/3 left, which will take maximum 2 months. And at the same time, we have ordered all the main equipment for this Sangjeon underground processing plant, and they are all produced, manufactured, and standing there in the plant, ready for the shipment. So we will transfer those equipment into this underground processing area once it's completed, and install and do the test production. There we go. Then we will get into the commercial production, of course, with some ramp up period of 6 months to 1 year. But our projection is that in less than 6 months, we will get into the commercial production. And with about 6 months ramp up period, we will start producing about 900 to 1,000 tons of 65% concentrate annually.
That's 3% of global supply, Eric, if you're wondering, 3 to 4%.
Yes.
In fact, these two mines in Korea are the only two new mines coming on in the industry in the next 12 months, apart from our beautiful mine in Tajikistan. Maybe, Tiger, you should tell Eric your amazing plans in Tajikistan, perhaps, as well.
Well, you know, as probably you know that or not, Korea is the largest tungsten consuming country per capita in the world. That's mainly because of Samsung and this chip manufacturers, but not only them, K-Defense, which is a defense industry, which is well established and now exporting to the world. And at the same time, Korea has the largest tool manufacturers and mills and all this inserts and everything in Korea. So that's why Korea has become the largest tungsten consumer per capita tungsten consumer in the world. That's why Korean government has designated tungsten as one of the critical minerals. And unfortunately, so far, although we are developing, Sangdong mine is not producing yet. Our mine is not producing yet. So we are relying 100% on imports, and 90%, 93% of that comes from China. Right? That's the current situation. And as I said, if Sangjeon is producing, we will produce about, say, 1,000 tons of 65% concentrate, which is only 30% or 1/3 of Korean consumption. So I was looking around to find some other good mines around the world. Bad news, unfortunately, after years of travel.
You couldn't just develop Korea's next big tungsten mine. You had to go and find another one.
No, I mean, you can say that. We used to have several tungsten mines scattered around the country, but they are not commercially feasible to do the sort of mass production like Sangdong or ourselves. That's the reason why, as Jeremy mentioned, Sangdong and Sangjeon would be the only economically feasible tungsten mines in Korea. So to carry on, I was looking around, I visited every countries like Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, where people say there are some tungsten. But unfortunately, yes, there are good tungsten mines, bad mines, small mines, big mines. The important thing is all taken by Chinese, mostly by Chinese, because China being threatened by sort of their rapid speed of the depletion of the tungsten. As I said, China started digging tungsten in late 70s. Now, let me remind you, today, I mean, it's 2025, it's 50 years. And the mines, which has, I mean, the mine life over 30, 40 years, we believe, well, we say it's great mine, right? So after 45, 50 years, it's obvious that the tungsten buried in China is rapidly depleting. And what's going to happen? This the producer, which takes 80% or 80% of global production, suddenly produce nothing. I mean, maybe not nothing, produce much less. That's the threat to the Western the tungsten consumers. Anyway, going back, I found the Chinese people, came out and took all the major tungsten mines in the world. Mongolia, Tajikistan, I'm sorry, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, no exception. Some Latin American countries, African countries, no exception. But incidentally, I was lucky to be introduced to this country, Tajikistan, which is one of 5 Central Asian countries, least developed. And their sort of opening of the market was quite late. It was only last year, 24, when UN gave some supporting message to the world for promoting the investment into these countries. So when I visit this country, obviously the first thing I was looking for is the tungsten mines. And I was shocked to find that there are many tungsten mines in very good numbers, which were all found out and verified by ex-Soviet authorities. As you understand, all these CSI Asian countries were part of the Soviet 50 years ago. So this Tajikistan, to give you an example, they have about total 800 the mines for various minerals. Out of 800, only 100 or slightly over 100 is now producing, meaning the rest, absolute majority, 80-some percentage were state-owned, right? And tungsten, as I said, there are more than 50 tungsten mines in this country because it's very hilly, very mountainous. Now, 93% of this country is mountain, and they are land rock. So out of these 50 tungsten mines, none of them is producing. And that's why last year
I can't believe this. You find the one alternative mine in South Korea, and then you go around Mongolia, Kazakhstan, I don't know, all the different places, and you feel like, oh, I'm 10 years late. Everywhere I go, the Chinese have locked down all the good deposits. And then you go to this one country and they're like, oh, you're interested in tungsten mines? We have tungsten mines everywhere. You can have as many.
Well, you may say
that.
The
it sounds like it's great.
And to put it in perspective, Eric, the big one that Tiger's commandeered, Makahura, supplied Stalin with 1/3 of his needs during World War II for tungsten. That's how big it is, and we think it's huge. We think it's the highest grading tungsten mine in the world. It's absolutely incredible. And it actually closed in 1971, and the Soviets, they don't muck around. They then drilled this deposit for the next 4 years. How many countries do that? They go and close the mine and run away, right? The Soviets drilled this deposit for the next 4 years, and Tiger's got hundreds and thousands of drill holes that we're now going to convert into a mine plan. I mean, this could be one of the best stories ever in tungsten in Tajikistan. It's just incredible. We met the ambassador of Tajikistan in South Korea. The government's so excited about Tiger and all the support and the investment we want to make in the country. What a beautiful country it is as well, Tiger, isn't it, Tajikistan?
Yeah.
How do you get there from South Korea? It's a bit of a trek, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was introduced by this non-profit organization which was doing some official development assistance program, findings, drinking waters, potable waters here and there. But I was introduced by that group to the Tajikistan government. But as Jeremy said,
go on, Tiger, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
I was going to say, so it all kind of comes together that Jeremy, I guess when you guys put all this, you were sitting there and going, why don't we put this all together into Pure Tungsten? You had the small Brazilian asset. You have this mine was in production and could very quickly be back into production in Korea. And then there's kind of this major lottery ticket out on the side with Tajikistan that, obviously requires more work and more money, but could be substantial size. And so you're like, hey, why don't we put this together into one company and called Pure Tungsten? Is that the big idea?
Yeah, and what a combination it's going to be. Just amazed by the response from investors on this. I wish gold was as people were as excited about gold as they are at tungsten. I'm not sure if it's because the Chinese ban on exports that's starting to really scare the world, or if it's just the boom in military spending that clearly is on its way. Even if we hopefully have peace in the Ukraine, there's a massive depletion of military arms all through the West that need to be, and tungsten's a major driver of military spending. So it's just a whole, and also the fact that there's almost no new tungsten mines coming on in the
I
Western
think
world.
it's more unique, yeah. Jeremy, have you guys been raising money for this thing, or what have you guys been up to with getting this to the next level?
Yeah, we started a raise 2 weeks ago. We're going to close it next week. It's a pre-money valuation of only 40 million Canadian for 3 big mines with a footprint of global presence. And to give you an idea, if you have an exploration story like Guardian Metals in America, early stage exploration, did you hear that thunder? They must be, they don't have a market cap just of 100 million, just early stage exploration. So the potential here, that's I think why we've had so much interest in this funding. But also I've got a dream CEO, Tiger Kim, who's fantastic. I mean, he's got a vision and energy. It's absolutely brilliant to see what he's done and what I think we'll do together.
If I may supplement what Jeremy said, is that I believe the Pure Tungsten is a fast emerging tungsten consolidation platform. As I said, Sangjeon mine, which will be producing in within 6 months, we have about over 0.4% grade, which is twice of the global average. But to give you an example, Tajikistan mine, Mahura, their grade is close to 1%. And Brazil, it's between 0.8% to 1.4%, averaging out over 1%. So we are basically collecting good, high quality tungsten mines into this umbrella. So although we are starting with Korea, Brazil, Tajikistan, Jeremy and I are discussing, and we are evaluating number of good tungsten mines in the state, in Canada, and elsewhere. So that's our short to medium term goal. Before we go into any public listing, we will have a very solid quality tungsten mines in our group. And as Jeremy and his team had shown in the gold, I'm a strong believer that we can replicate the success Jeremy has shown in the field of gold.
Guys, it sounds exciting, and thanks for Tiger for telling us about the amazing backstory of tungsten and how it's all setting up, and also just kind of really a lot of work you've done. I'm just imagining those trips and those hotels and the taxi rides all around Central Asia. I've traveled a lot in Africa, so I appreciate that's a lot of work you've done.
We're also doing an investor trip to Tajikistan in October if you'd like to join us.
Okay.
Good.
Sounds kind of fun. So guys, thanks very much. And I think if anyone wants information about it, we'll have a link for people to watch the videos and see more about Pure Tungsten. Thanks, guys.
Great.
Thanks very much, Eric.
Thanks for having us today. Thank you, Eric.